Welcome back. Today I'm going to go through one of the games I played against one of you, my subscribers. I believe the username is Vedant Baj or Vedant Baj. Regardless, I appreciate the game. I had a lot of fun. It was trying at times. I knew that you had made a couple of mistakes in the opening, and we're going to hit those here, but I didn't know how to capitalize on that. And then I began to fear that I had made mistakes. And the middle game was tough, and we made it to, I think we went 57 moves. So let's take a look and see if we can learn anything. My opponent opened with e4, so I played the Caro-Kann, which is c6. They played d4. And here, white always has a slight advantage because the computer just doesn't like the Caro-Kann. In fact, on lichess, the computer says that the Caro-Kann is an inaccuracy. My opponent played one of the better moves, which interestingly, lichess says that e5 is one of the better moves here, but chess.com doesn't. I'm not sure why. This is one of the versions of the Caro-Kann that I always struggle with. Again, the two main choices here are either c5 or bishop to f5. I've been playing bishop to f5 because I seem to understand that a little better, rather than putting the pawn here on c5 before I've opened up this bishop to protect that pawn or to win that back. The few times that I've done this and they've taken, and then I've played e6 in order to free up the dark squared bishop, by that point they've already been able to defend this pawn or try something else. So anyway, that's why I've been playing bishop to f5. And again, Stockfish on chess.com says this is actually slightly better, whereas Stockfish on lichess says c5 is actually slightly better. But anyway, my opponent played their best move in this situation. It's a normal part of the Caro-Kann opening. And here I was supposed to play... Oh no, I did play. Okay, I was supposed to play e6 and I did. That's almost always the follow-up move after we've played bishop to f5 is to put this pawn here on e6. I think the only exception would be if the opponent brings their bishop out wanting to trade off light squared bishops, in which case we trade off light squared bishops. And either their queen or pawn takes back at that point. Otherwise, e6 is almost the next best move here. Now here, I think this next move wasn't counted as a mistake, but maybe an inaccuracy. What the computer is looking for in this phase of the game for white is either bishop to e2 or c3 to help protect the center pawn, or knight b to d2, which that blocks, I guess that blocks checks coming from this way. Maybe, I don't know, c3 would also do that. Or this way, for that matter. We've got a nice open diagonal for checking over here, whereas knight b to d2 would block those. But my opponent, I guess, found a different way to block at least one of those checking possibilities, which was here. As you can see from the engine, this wasn't counted as a mistake. It does prevent this. And of course, now if I try to check with the queen, that pawn can always jump in here too. So it wasn't a bad move. It just wasn't one of the best ones. I think the reason Stockfish is suggesting h6 here is because sometimes this bishop ends up needing a place to go. But knight to d7 is what I played, which is one of the next best moves. This puts extra pressure on the c5 square because we want to move the pawn there at some point, and the bishop's already guarding that square, but now the knight can guard it as well, and we might eventually bring this queen out here to put pressure on it this way. That's the idea behind that move. Anyway, here my opponent played one of their best moves, which is to put extra defense on that pawn. It's already being protected by the knight and the queen, and now the bishop guards it as well. Okay, and I had just mentioned possibly bringing the queen out here, which is what I did. Now here's where my opponent made a mistake or an inaccuracy, depending on which engine you check. I think they're supposed to do something with the b pawn here. Obviously, I'm attacking it. You can defend it by moving forward, because then it'll be defended by the c pawn. You can defend it by moving it all the way here, where it'll be defended by the a pawn. Or you can defend it by moving the rook up. So that's why those are listed as the top three moves. I guess my opponent didn't see that I was actually going for the pawn and instead played the h pawn. Now that does do what I was talking about over here, which is preparing to trap this bishop, because it doesn't have very many places it can go right now. And often h6 is played here so this bishop can retreat. So I think that's what the idea was here, but it might have been played out of order. Regardless, Stockfish counted that counted that one as a mistake. Well, because it allows me to take this pawn. Now I hesitated here because I wasn't sure. I know a lot of times it's, what do they call it, a poison pawn? it's a trick or a trap. Your queen can get mired in there with no way to escape. And already some of the squares, escape squares, are covered. So if I take this pawn and my opponent is able to attack my queen somehow, perhaps with a bishop move, or I wasn't sure. But I took it because I just couldn't see any way that they could specifically trap me. I thought if they brought the bishop down here, I could take the rook. If they tried to get the knight out of the way, then the knight, it wouldn't actually be attacking anything, and I could just bring my queen back to where it was, and if they tried to bring the rook over, I could, of course, retreat to safety while still guarding this pawn. So it looked safe enough. And then here, that is what the computer is suggesting at this point, is to bring this knight out so the queen protects the rook. But this next move is what the computer counted as a blunder, and that's when my opponent moved this bishop out here, I guess to protect this pawn. That gives up the rook, but not before challenging this bishop. I think that's the other thing that move does, is challenge this bishop. That also usually happens at a different point in the Caro-Kann normally. Certainly it doesn't happen when my queen is right here threatening the rook. I'm surprised I played the best move. Stockfish says to go ahead and take this rather than the rook. I'm not sure exactly what the difference is, although it does say that's not that much worse. I think you can see it right up here. It's about 1.5 points better to take the bishop first. And the reason I chose to do that is because they only could take back with the queen or the pawn, and that still leaves me the rook. And if they don't take back and they do something else, like try to protect the rook this way with the queen, then they've just given up this piece. And then I can probably still get out of there with my queen. So anyway, that was the only mistake in the game for my opponent. Again, Vedant Baj. Possibly both of those are wrong, and I apologize if so. Only mistake and only blunder were the h3 and then playing this bishop out here at this point. And as you can see from the engine, I'm up -7 at this point. So I took the bishop. Their best move is to take back with either the queen or the pawn. They took back with the pawn, which gives me the rook, which I took. And again, here I was worried a little bit that my queen was getting trapped. It happens sometimes. I think their best move to get out of this is just to castle. Yeah, that's what the engine is saying. Well, because now if you're down a whole piece. So now this knight is pinned. If you move the knight, we're going to trade queens. The only way you're going to be able to take back is by castling. I guess you could move the knight here to protect the queen, but then I'm just going to take the knight with check. So for example, if you move the knight here, I'm going to take the queen. You're going to have to take back, and you lose all your castling rights. So not only are you down a piece, but your queen is stuck. I mean, your rook is stuck back there. Now my opponent played here. That was not counted as a mistake or a blunder by the game review, but it wasn't ideal. For one thing, it allows this next move, which again, I'm surprised that I found, but I did put some thought into this. It looks like my queen is about to be trapped. And that was, I mean, I can see the thought behind this. This move protects the pawn, protects the knight. And so I can't take this with check, and I can't get out this way. And now I can't get out anywhere because the queen guards that square, and the queen guards that square, and that one, and that one, and that one. And the bishop guards this square. So does the knight. Wait, is my queen trapped? Well, it was about time to develop my bishop anyway. And I can take here. And they can't take back with the knight because that knight is pinned. So I'm surprised and impressed with myself that I found that. But again, here I felt pretty good. I'm up 7 points of material, a rook and 2 pawns, because I took that pawn and I took this pawn. And I'm pretty close to being able to castle here. Stockfish says the best move is for them to just go ahead and one of their 2 best moves is to just go ahead and take that bishop. Yeah, it's settling on that as the best move. And if so, then I'm going to take the knight with check, and then my queen can get out. But that's what Stockfish says their best move is. Now here they castled, which I thought was pretty good under the circumstances. Obviously during the game I can't see the engine, and I don't think my opponent could either, because now the knight, it's not pinned to the king anymore. And so now I have to be able to get out. Look at this. Oh, Stockfish says I should have brought this back here. I should have brought the bishop back to e7, because now that I've removed the a pawn, I can get my queen out that way. I didn't see that. Oh, wow. It says my second best move is to put it back on its home square or go here. I actually thought about putting it there, but then I I was worried that the the knight's going to move someplace and then the rook is going to be pointed at my queen. So I thought I'm up 7 points of material. Right now is a good time to offer a queen trade, and it is their best move to take it. It's their best move to take the bishop here, because that way you still get the queen trade, but you get rid of my bishop. And my opponent found that. As I said, their only mistake and their only blunder of the game are behind them. From here on out, they played very well. And so we've got queens off the board, but I'm up. I'm up a rook and a pawn at this point. Or I'm up a rook and I've lost the math here. They're down a few pawns and a rook, but I'm down a bishop, a minor piece. So it kind of comes out to 4 points of material. Well, now I want a castle, so I want to bring this out. It actually says I should just play oh, wow. Why didn't I see that? Look at that. We've cleared off these files. I have 2 passed pawns. Connected, protected passed pawns. A5 and B5 are my 2 best moves. Well, let that be a lesson to you and to me for the future. I could have ended this game faster had I thought about this for a little longer, but what I was thinking about was that this rook hasn't moved yet, and this knight hasn't moved yet. And the way to move the rook is to get the knight out of the way, and then castle, and then the rook's over here, and it can join in the fun. So it was my 3rd best move. They started charging forward. At that point, I wondered if maybe castling wasn't the right idea. Again, B5, A5, my top 2 moves. Nice. Oh, castling's in there too. But I started getting worried about castling because they've got nothing to lose now. Do I want to castle into a pawn storm? I wasn't sure. Although, if that pawn ever quit defending F5, then I can always hop this knight in here, and then that knight helps to protect this square. I think I would have been okay, but I wasn't sure. Stockfish wasn't really fond of that move, but it's not horrible. When you're up that much, it's not that bad. I was still focused on this, because even though the whole opening is broken, I know that in the Caro-Kann, one of the huge ideas is to challenge that D pawn with my C pawn. And now that these are doubled and there's no other pawns left that can protect that one, that's what I was setting about to do here, was to try to do something like this. They brought that knight back. I decided to try to go ahead and, what was I doing here? Maybe I saw some weaknesses, or maybe I was trying to prevent that pawn from pushing forward. I can't explain that move. I was surprised I didn't play C5 here. They brought the knight back. Okay, wow. Not sure what I'm doing there. Again, I was hesitant. I wasn't sure what to do. I haven't castled yet. Don't know if I want to castle into the pawn storm. There I played C5. Finally, I have pressure on it this way. I have pressure on it this way. This knight is kind of looking out for those squares over here. And also, if that pawn takes here, then my G knight can take that E pawn too. But they fortressed it with this F pawn. So now what do I do? Stockfish says just castle, you'll be fine, but I don't think that way. I thought the whole reason I came here was to take that pawn. Maybe what I wasn't thinking about here was that they had a whole nother pawn. They have 2 D pawns now. Maybe taking that pawn wasn't the best idea. I don't know. But when they played this, I brought my knight back. It scared me. But I still thought if they tried to advance this, I can go in here. If they try to advance this, I can take it. And if they take back, I can go in there. And I'll be okay. That was the idea. I'm not sure what that was about. It's been a long time since I've seen an opponent play a knight into the corner, but it didn't turn out to be that bad. The only thing I can think of was that they were trying to reroute this way, perhaps to help protect that front D pawn. And there we go. Finally got rid of that D pawn. This rook has come over. Now they have multiple pieces hitting right here, and I only have one protecting it. Did I play the best move? Yes. Yes, I did. Now that piece isn't hitting that pawn anymore. In fact, it's now in danger itself. So now the bishop needs to go somewhere. They brought it back. I finally castled. Then here comes that pawn. But did you see that? When this pawn moved, it's not protecting this pawn anymore. Was that my best move to take no. Well, Stockfish is still not sure. It really likes the idea of taking this open file, rook f to b8. Okay, but now it's saying that was my second best move. Well, that's what I saw. I thought, you know what, if they take here, I'll take back, and I'll have an open file. My rook will be on an open file right here, so I wasn't worried about that. But I did see that it quit defending the e pawn, so that's why I took that. They brought that knight, apparently trying to reroute it over here maybe? Or maybe up this way. I'm not sure exactly what their idea was. Oh, see? I'm not completely lost. I knew that putting a rook on an open file is a good idea. Was that one of their best moves? No, okay. Sorry, because at the time I thought, oh, that's a little tricky. It blocks this pawn. When they put their bishop here, it blocks my A pawn, which is now my only passed pawn, since I didn't do the whole B and B5 and A5 earlier. In fact, now my B pawn has gone over there. It's not passed anymore. But my A pawn's the only passed pawn, and moving there blocks it. Also, like, thinks about infiltrating here. Possible ideas of forking two of these pieces. So what do I do about that? Well, I get my rook off the dark square. It's the best way to avoid that. Because now this rook doesn't want to go to any of these squares. Not that one either. I mean the bishop. Did I say rook? That bishop doesn't want to go down there. Now it should go back, or they should take here, or the third best move. So my opponent played. Now I don't know if you're seeing here what I was talking about in the introduction, which is that even though I'm up 5 points of material now. We have the same amount of pieces, but I'm up in exchange. Let's see, right? We both have 4 pieces, but one of mine is a rook and they have an extra minor piece. And I'm also up a bunch of extra pawns. But I didn't see an obvious way, especially once the queens get off the board. That was the only way to get my queen out of the corner down there, was to trade it off. So now even though I have 2 rooks, I have to be extra careful. I'm curious as to why I didn't bring my other rook here. What would have been the problem with that? Like, in hindsight, that looks like a really good idea. But maybe I didn't see a lot of safe squares down this file. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't line both rooks up and head down there for B1. Stockfish says I should just go ahead and take this now. Or rook to B3. What does rook to B3 do? It's not threatening the pawn, right? It's protected. Or maybe it would keep the knight down there? Yeah, what does rook to B3 do? It doesn't threaten to come behind here because that's knight. Yeah, I'm confused about Stockfish's second move. Or knight to F6. What, trying to hop in here this way maybe? Back and forth? Boop, boop, boop. I don't know. Well, I played knight to B8, which might sound unreasonable at this point, but I didn't like this bishop here blocking my only passed pawn, so I was about to come in this way. That was my plan. They played knight to A3. Maybe that's why it wanted me to put the rook here. It knew they were going to do that. But yeah, that explains why, to me anyway, that explains why Stockfish would have said rook to B3. That would keep their knight from going there. I just had no idea they were going to put their knight there. I guess if maybe they're coming in here for this outpost, where the pawn would protect it, and then would block another one of my pawns. That's actually a pretty good move. I don't know if it was one of their best or not, but I went ahead with my plan, which was to come after that bishop, which I did. You know what? There's a problem. This pawn's undefended. Oh, wow. Did they take it? Yeah, they did. I just lost a pawn. Now I'm only up 4 points of material. Going back. What did Stockfish say my best move was? Rook to C8? Or rook to B3 again? Or knight B to D7, putting this knight back where it was. Well, that one would have protected that pawn. That would have protected that pawn. And this wouldn't have protected the pawn directly, but it would have kept them from taking it because their knight would have been in danger. Okay, well, I didn't see any of those. I went about with my plan and just didn't see that that pawn was undefended, or I honestly can't remember. Maybe I was just willing to give it up at that point. My opponent took it, so now I'm only up 4 points of material. And their bishop's protected. Saying rook to E8. Well, I decided to take the bishop anyway. They now have their choices of which knight of mine to take. It looks like they're both -5. They took one of them. I hopped in here thinking maybe I could pick up this pawn. Maybe I could come in this way. I wasn't sure exactly what I was thinking, but I wanted to get out of the way of this pawn and start advancing it. And of course, right here, with this knight here, which is protected by the rook, it would protect this square for me to move the pawn forward. They're supposed to take here now, but they didn't. They played H4, but still we're -5. This whole time I've been -5, but during the game, I didn't know that. During the game, throughout this whole portion, I didn't know what to do. The times that I found the best move, it was purely by accident. I was examining all my options and feeling kind of like, I know I'm up on material, but I don't know how to convert this. Okay, that was my best move, apparently, taking that pawn. They take back, which I think is fine for them. And now I played what was not one of my best moves, but I was taking control of the open file, and they kept pushing with these pawns over here. I decided I can attack the rook and make it move. It went back. I attacked it. Also, no, it's not doing anything other than attacking that rook. Okay, it says they should come back here. Stockfish wanted their rook back here, but it didn't go there. It went over here in front of the king. This knight's undefended, so they have to go defend it. Stockfish says to defend it over here, but my opponent defended by moving the king over. I still, at this point, was not sure how to do anything about this. They're playing really well. I mean, they have two defenders on this. I'm not going to waste two rooks getting rid of two knights. So now what do? I don't know if that was any good, but I can come in here and challenge that and this. And I did challenge their rook. They moved their rook. I came back out of the way. That was pretty good, I thought. But now this pawn is blocked, so this whole rook battery is doing nothing. And it's still just -5. I'm not making progress here. What can I do? What can I do? Oh, it says to take that pawn? Well, I didn't think of that. I just went past it. Now that knight's pinned. I was pretty happy about that knight being pinned. But now, finally, I'm pushing the a-pawn. Finally, I'm pushing the a-pawn. They're coming toward it. I need to push the g-pawn, it says. Okay, well, oh no, a3 is my next. Okay, Stockfish changed his mind. But I don't think they can stop it now, was my idea here. Oh wait, the knight's there. That's okay. If they get in front of it, then the knight's just stuck there. And if they wait until I promote and take, well, then I pick up the knight for a pawn, right? I was also worried about this. If I ever leave the back rank, that's mate. So I have to make sure and keep a rook on the back rank to prevent them from checkmating me. Now they've got a passed pawn that's going to try to get my rook off the back rank here in a second. So my opponent was playing very well. This was because I wanted to get this rook off the back rank or out of the path of this pawn, but I also needed to protect against this. That's why the king move. Okay, coming over here. It says I need to go ahead and just play king f7. Wouldn't they check me? Oh no, I'm protecting that whole rank. Okay. Well, I brought the rook over aiming at this pawn. I didn't think they could do anything about it other than move it forward. But now that they've moved it forward, I did find the best move. Because now I can get in between these pawns and there's nothing they can do about it. I was pretty proud of that move. When it brought the king forward, e8. It says to go ahead and go here or rook to g8. Well, I just went ahead with my plan of putting my king in between those pawns. And yeah, I know that if they push this pawn, it'll be a discovered check. But if they do that, I'm just going to take it, which was one of the ideas the whole time. And it says that that's actually what they should do here. They did not. They took their king back just a little ways. I decided to get rid of their extra rook. When you're up material, it's sometimes good to trade off a little bit of it. So I did that. They did not take, which I was surprised by. So I took theirs, knowing that that gives them this passed pawn, but also knowing that I can stop it. And here I am now in a mating sequence. I'm not seeing mate in 13 like Stockfish does, but I'm pretty sure that I can take this and then I'm threatening that knight, and this pawn is getting pretty close to promotion at this point. I probably could have found a mate in 20 or so. So I go ahead and take the pawn, which is my best move here. And that was a mistake. Yeah, it says they need to put it behind there. But of course, when they do, I'm going to come down here. So there's going to be trouble down there, and I'm going to end up promoting the pawn. But instead, they played b4, which was their next best move, which that allows me to check or promote or check over here. And I almost promoted here, thinking that, yeah, they would get my rook, but I would have a queen. However, what if I could have both? And that's what made me settle on this move, and there my opponent resigned. But number one, I wanted to say good job, because only one mistake and only one blunder, and then making me work that hard for the rest of the game. And this is a player who's a couple hundred points lower than me. So I think you did an excellent job. And I had trouble throughout the entire middle game, wondering what to do, how to get out of there. I was questioning every move. Thank you again for the game, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.